Ignite your imagination with fantasy sabers.
Hey everyone, and welcome to today's video. Our story begins at the Jedi Temple in 26 BBY. Anakin Skywalker is 15 years old and has been in the Order for 6 years under the tutelage of Obi-Wan Kenobi. To put it simply, Anakin is brash, arrogant, and heavily overestimates his abilities. From the moment he entered the Order, he has been showered with thoughts of being the Chosen One, the person with the most Force potential of anyone in history. While the boy contains many great traits, entering the Jedi at age 9 has led to him developing many poor tendencies, which is what Palpatine manipulates in the original timeline to get Anakin on his side. So what if Anakin was trained by the Bendu? Anakin and Obi-Wan are sent on a mission to Atollon by the Jedi Council, where they are tasked with protecting the planet's young, enigmatic princess, who has received numerous death threats due to her family's refusal to switch to a renewable hyperspace energy source. Although Atollon isn't in the Galactic Republic, it is an Outer-Rim territory that has always lended aid and support to the Republic, and they have a strong alliance together. Thus, the Jedi Council sees it fit to send 2 Jedi to establish a year-long post to ensure her protection. Skywalker and Kenobi begin their investigation to unravel the mystery behind the threats. A few days into their stay, as Anakin roamed the wildlife just outside the city, he discovers the Bendu, a mysterious Force entity. The Bendu would have sensed Anakin's arrival on the planet and welcomes the boy, respecting his innate Force powers, but curious to meet the man within. Very quickly into a conversation, Bendu would discover that Anakin holds a lot of demons and feels lots of pressure to perform, and that everyone is constantly watching him. Bendu tells Anakin that he is viewing his situation the wrong way, placing too much emphasis on the wider perception of himself. Anakin lacks a sense of balance, emotional composure, and detachment from extremes. This really resonated with Anakin, and the boy was immediately captivated by the Force entity, asking if he could visit him during his stay on the planet. Bendu asked Anakin about the Chosen One prophecy, asking him what he thought of it. Anakin only really knew what the Jedi told him, that he was the Chosen One destined to destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force. The Bendu would laugh and mock Skywalker, asking what he knows of balance, that all he does is train in the light and suppress any small bit of dark that ever enters his system. He may be the Chosen One, but balance is something that Anakin lacks. The Bendu would be an exceptional teacher for Anakin, because he embodies what Anakin lacks. Bendu's philosophy of existing in the middle of the Force, neither fully light nor dark, aligns perfectly with Anakin's struggle to reconcile his intense emotions, attachments, and fear of failure. Anakin's training would begin. Now, it's important to preface here that I think there are 4 main things that the Bendu can teach Anakin that would be vital in his upbringing. The Bendu would teach Anakin to see the Force as a continuum, not a strict division between light and dark. This was certainly going against his training as a Jedi, but Skywalker was curious, and his unique way of viewing the Force was incredibly captivating for the Jedi. He would learn to embrace balance through meditative exercises and interacting with Atollon's vast ecosystem. He would learn to acknowledge and master his emotions, rather than being suppressed or ruled by them. Understanding that emotions like fear and anger are not inherently destructive. This would take time, but when he finally mastered this ability under the Bendu's training, he became a far more stoic and wise Jedi. This would prove certainly more difficult for Anakin, who began his Jedi training at age 9, already developing several attachments, but more importantly, developing the idea that growing attachments is a good thing. This would have to be retaught to establish that letting go of attachments isn't a bad thing, but necessary to become the one in the middle. Using nature's cycles as metaphors, the Bendu would guide Anakin to confront his fear of loss and accept the impermanence of life. Anakin would be put through trials, such as simulated visions which the Bendu created with the Force, which depicted loss or harsh survival challenges, each teaching him that love is the most powerful when rooted in trust and acceptance, rather than fear and control. Over time, Anakin came under this and learned how to let go of his fear and focus on love and the beauty of the Force. The Bendu would help Anakin live fully in the present, teaching him to attune to the living Force as it manifests in the here and now. This reminded Anakin of the way Qui-gon talked about the Force, not focusing on the past or future, but grounding his thoughts in the now. Exercises like navigating Atelon's terrain blindfolded or solving problems without relying on premonitions would deepen Anakin's connection to the flow of life and enhance his awareness of the moment. Perhaps the most controversial and eye-opening for Anakin was this. The Bendu would challenge Anakin to think critically about the Jedi Code and its limitations. Bendu didn't dislike or hate the Jedi, he just didn't align with their core values, but this didn't mean he didn't mind admiration in their pursuit to help people. But to him, it wasn't the only way. By encouraging Anakin to explore different values and ideas to the Jedi Code, the Bendu would help Anakin develop a more nuanced understanding of the Force, free from the binary constraints of the Jedi and Sith ideology. Throughout their stay on Atelon, Anakin would begin using his lessons practically to help with their mission on the planet. After a year, they would find and arrest the assassins who were hiding on the outskirts of the planet. Returning back to Coruscant, Anakin parted ways with the Bendu and thanked him for all of his help. From the moment Anakin returned home, it was clear to everyone that he had changed. Obi-Wan sensed it, the Council certainly sensed it, but more importantly, Palpatine sensed it. At the Jedi Temple, after his year away, Anakin didn't fit in at all. No one understood him. He had changed, and he began spreading the lessons he learned from Bendu. He brought up reforms for the Jedi Code, explaining that the Jedi are too dogmatic and rigid, and that they should live in the middle, not completely detaching themselves from the dark and not only allowing the light. But Anakin was called an extremist, and no one understood what had happened. After being spoken to and yelled at by the Council for spreading terrible rumors about the Jedi, Anakin gets in his ship and flies back to Atelon to speak with the Bendu again, telling him all that has happened in the weeks since he returned home. Bendu told Anakin to recognize that he has changed now, that he isn't the same person that arrived on Atelon a year ago. Ultimately, Anakin Skywalker makes the decision to walk away from the Jedi Order, to walk his own path in the middle of the Force, not confining himself only to the light. Palpatine would be furious when he learned that this had happened. Not only had Anakin left the Order, but he sensed that he would be far more difficult to manipulate. Anakin's beliefs had shifted even further, but he might see Anakin's departure from the Order as both an opportunity and a threat. Anakin is no longer tethered to the Jedi and their doctrines, and this makes him unpredictable. Palpatine tried bringing Anakin closer to him, but this didn't work. Anakin made it clear that he was walking his own path now. After leaving the Jedi Order, Anakin spent years traveling the galaxy alone, seeking balance within the Force and trying to help those in need while staying away from political machinists of the Republic. He continues to learn and grow, reigning his understanding of the Force under the guidance of the Bendu and other Force-sensitive encounters. He was still in contact with Bendu, visiting him often. He was at peace, and he spent his time searching for knowledge. Anakin wandered the galaxy, free from rules or expectations. He helped those in need, trusting his instincts of the Force to guide him. Anakin lived simply, learning from the people he met and the places he visited. He was no longer trapped by the weight of the Jedi or the constant suppression of the dark side. He followed the call of the Force, helping where he could and learning from the people he encountered. In the mountains of a frozen world, Anakin saved a village from monstrous creatures that had been terrorizing them, using not only his lightsaber but his connection to the Force to help calm the beast and guide it away. On an ocean planet, he worked with fishermen to save their sinking village from a devastating storm, using the Force to steady their boats and holding back surging waves. He was free, avoiding the politics of the Republic and growing shadow of the Sith, focusing instead of the people and their struggles. Over time, the color of Anakin's saber would change, naturally shifting a silver color, which symbolized his control over the middle of the Force. Anakin's powers had tripled since he left the Order. He became a myth in the Outer Rim, the powerful Force user who could do anything with the wave of a hand. Some didn't believe he was real, only a folklore tale to help children sleep. But those, like the Jedi and Palpatine, knew that Anakin was out there, increasing his strength and being restrained by no one. As the years passed, the Clone Wars would begin and war raged throughout the galaxy for a few years. Anakin would travel from planet to planet, helping the people of the galaxy. Just because he left the Order doesn't mean he left his duty to do what is right and use his extraordinary gifts for good. As the months turned into years, the war was brutal and the galaxy desired change. The Republic had become upset with the Jedi, almost turning on them, believing they were the cause of the war and it was their fault it hadn't come to an end. This is exactly what Palpatine wanted and needed, and just like in the original timeline, he executes Order 66 and purges the Jedi Order. Now, Palpatine is on record saying that he didn't need Anakin to complete the purge. The clones would have been sufficient alone to wipe out the Jedi. He only sent Anakin to the temple to further his discontent into darkness. The Sith Lord also decided that he would carry out on his plans despite the fact that Anakin was somewhere in the galaxy, but he hadn't seen the boy in almost 6 years. He was a ghost story. When the news reached Anakin that the Order had collapsed, the Chosen One knew he had to go back and help. Even though he wasn't a Jedi anymore, he knew how the alternative to the Jedi not protecting the galaxy would be pain and suffering. As he begins to make his way back towards Coruscant, Anakin is contacted by Obi-Wan, Yoda and Mace Windu, 3 of few surviving Jedi following the purge. They meet up and Anakin learns exactly what has happened. They tell the Chosen One that Palpatine is the Sith Lord and that he's the most powerful person they have ever seen. It was like the light from their souls had been ripped apart and they truly believed all hope was lost. Anakin could sense Windu's hold over the light slipping, and as the Jedi told Anakin that Palpatine had already consolidated his empire and he was suppressing worlds, Skywalker knew something had to be done. Anakin explains that he will go and defeat Palpatine himself, but the Jedi caution this, saying that they didn't think anyone could defeat him and his empire. Anakin would return to Atollon and ask Bendu what to do. Even the Bendu had sensed that the darkness had risen too far above balance and that it had to be tamed before all balance in the Force was lost. Skywalker asks how he can defeat Palpatine if Yoda and Windu can't, then no one can. Bendu steps forward and touches Anakin over the heart, telling him that he will give him the power to defeat the Sith and that he will find a way to bring balance to the Force. As everything goes white, Anakin wakes up with pains in his heart and the Bendu disappears. Anakin was already on his ship heading towards Coruscant. He didn't understand what had just happened, but he sensed that he was ready. 2 weeks after the rise of the Empire, it was Palpatine's coronation where he marched the streets of Coruscant during a parade where they celebrated his rule and the end of the Clone Wars. The Jedi had the help from the 104th, led by Commander Wolffe, who had their inhibitor chips removed by Yoda and Obi-Wan when they discovered what had happened to the clones. Using the 104th's help, Anakin, Obi-Wan, Yoda and Windu sneak onto Coruscant. Watching the parade from afar, they got ready, positioning themselves at the steps of the Jedi Temple where the Sith Lord's new office would reside and where the parade finished. As Palpatine's chariot reaches the steps of the Jedi Temple, the clone troopers blast firepower upon their old brothers, and the 4 Jedi ignite their sabers and leap into battle. In a swift motion, Palpatine jumps from the chariot and into battle. From behind the Sith Lord, perhaps 1,000 clone troopers rush to help the Emperor. Obi-Wan and Bendu would take a defensive position against the clone troopers to protect them from firing upon Anakin and Yoda as they took the duel against Palpatine. It was a massive fight. Yoda and Anakin combine their attacks and fight Sidious with everything they have. The Grand Master notices the immense shift in Anakin's fighting style, which was still rooted in Form 5, but displayed significantly more aggressive strokes, and even at times shifted into a Form 7. He was impressed, and knew that Anakin had certainly increased in strength since he left the Order. Sidious swung with everything he could, allowing Yoda to use his acrobatics and use his time in the air to press forward upon Anakin, understanding that he was the bigger threat. On the outside, Bendu and Kenobi struggled to maintain their defensive moves, with hundreds of clone troopers firing constantly at them. The 104th Battalion tried to help the Jedi, and they set up a strong perimeter to allow the main duel to commence. But the sheer size of the clone troopers was overwhelming, and as Obi-Wan faltered on his side, one trooper snuck through and fired a bolt at Yoda, hitting him in the leg and causing him to fall to the floor, before Kenobi stabbed the trooper in the chest. Yoda became a liability, and Anakin had to take control of the duel. As they fought on the steps of the temple, Anakin uses all of his power. He recalls what Bendu told him. He would find a way to win. Anakin reached deep within himself, and he was transported back to Atollon, where he saw the Bendu place his hand on his heart, and when things went white before, they remained normal now. He heard the Bendu explain the most powerful Force ability that only those in the middle, whose intentions are absolutely pure, can learn. Anakin was given this gift, and when he returned to battle, he knew exactly what to do. Skywalker presses forward and locks blades with Palpatine, slicing downward and disarming the Sith Lord as Palpatine falls to his knees. Using the Force, Anakin touches Palpatine's heart and uses the power instilled in him by the Bendu. Anakin Skywalker declares that he took Palpatine's Force powers away so that he would not be able to harm anyone else again. Palpatine falls to the floor and tries to use Force Choke on Anakin, but nothing happens. He tried to Force push him back or use Force Lightning, but nothing comes out of his fingertips. Sidious was powerless. With the help of Senators Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, and Padme Amidala, Palpatine's schemes were revealed to the Senate and the galaxy, as they explained with evidence who Palpatine truly was: a Sith Lord, a murderer, and the man who orchestrated the Clone Wars. With the first triple co-chancellorship between Organa, Mothma, and Amidala, the Republic is reinstated and peace is assured in the galaxy. Surviving Jedi of Order 66 would return to Coruscant, where they aided the Jedi Masters in restoring the Jedi Temple and rebuilding the Jedi Order. The war was over and the Sith were defeated, and finally peace was back in the galaxy. The Jedi would invite Anakin to rejoin the Order, but he politely refuses. He would return to his life of a nomad, where he lived in the middle, just like his master, the Bendu. Anakin Skywalker had completed the Chosen One prophecy and brought balance to the Force, becoming both the light and the dark, and being able to live in the middle. If you enjoyed today's video, you must watch What If Mace Windu Trained Anakin, and What If Ahsoka Stopped Anakin from Killing Dooku. Please check out our saber shop, Fantasy Sabers, for the largest collection of replicas, Padawan sabers, and more. The link is first in the description. Thank you all for watching, and may the Force be with you.